Yes. What's going on, guys? My name is Eddie Tranzcendent, and you're now tuned into Tranzcendent Outlook. You're either watching or listening to the podcast. This is the podcast where I like to interview either people, businesses, or organizations that I feel are doing great things in the community. In other words, that they're transcending, right? And today, my guest, Erika, is someone who I believe is a transcendent person in the things that she does. Kind of like in front of us and also behind the scenes, right? And so what I wanted to do today was I wanted to interview her so that I could get to know her, because I want to know her a little more than what I do. And I really want you guys to understand who she is and what her whole mission is, right? And again, my best way to do that is to interview her here, so that way you could either watch it or listen to the podcast and get to know who she is. So without further ado, Erika. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Erika Eng.
Erika Eng. That's me.
Is that a married last name or
married last name?
Okay.
My husband is of Asian descent. So.
Okay. Now, was that something hard to kind of like get accustomed to? Like,
not really. I mean, you mean culturally or just?
No, just the name. Like somebody saying Mrs. Eng.
Yes.
Okay.
It was. My last name, my maiden name is Lesser, so it's very different. And then. People pronounce it's 3 letters, E-N-G, and everybody pronounces it weird.
Just now, when I said it, I was like, "Oh my God, I don't know how to say it."
Yeah,
and then I kind of just said it.
It's phonetic.
Yeah. And so
it's a super common Chinese last name, so everybody knows somebody with that last name.
Okay, but now, did it take a while for someone to say Mrs. Eng and you to say yes?
Yes.
Like, was there a time when you were kind of like, and your husband's like, "Babe," and you're like, "Oh yeah,
yes,
yeah, okay,
yeah."
Okay.
I think I leaned into it most honestly after I had kids, because now my last name is the same as my kids, and I really identify in that space.
And it's been quite a while since the first child, right?
Yeah, so I have two sons. One of them is 10, turning 11. The other one is just turned 6. So there's a sizable gap between them.
And it's been 10 years since you've been kind of, well, actually, it's probably been longer than 10 years. So we have kids here because we're at the Discovery Museum in Bridgeport.
That's right.
So this is like the Bridgeport Trumbull line?
This is the Bridgeport Fairfield line.
Bridgeport Fairfield line. Mm-hmm. And now where's that line at? I know we were kind of jumping all over the place.
The Trumbull line is on Madison Avenue. So truthfully, we're actually kind of right here is very like on the border of Trumbull, Fairfield, and Easton.
Okay. So
it's all kind of right here,
But the actual museum is
Bridgeport.
It's Bridgeport. Mm-hmm. Okay. So again, we're recording. If you're listening to the podcast, we're recording this podcast inside the Discovery Museum.
That's right.
In Bridgeport. Erika is the director.
Oh yeah, I'm the executive director. CEO, yeah.
Okay. And so if you're listening, please go onto YouTube so you can watch it. I think we're in a really cool space, and I think you guys will really enjoy kind of the backdrop of this episode. So let's back up a little bit and get into who is Erika, right? We'll talk about the museum and all the great things happening here. Yeah. Your partnership with Sacred Heart. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But let's get into who are you? Who are you? Who am I interviewing today?
I don't know. Just me. I'm somebody who grew up in a similar environment to a lot of kids in Bridgeport, and I attended a museum magnet school. Okay. And I know what that did for me, and I know what what would have been available to me had that after school opportunity not been available to me. So to me, it's something I'm super passionate about. I spent about 10 years in the aerospace industry. Okay. And then when I had my first son, we got married, moved up to Connecticut. I was commuting down to New York. And I did a lot of travel in that space. And it was in executive sales. And so I had to change my whole life, and I always wanted to do nonprofit work. And I didn't know how to enter that space, and sort of life in the universe gave me
kind of like put them together, right?
And what's weird is that in this space, I was always someone who loved to read. I'm a super nerd, like a super nerd. I love to read. I love music. I love games. I love science. I always have. And so this is weirdly, and given my experience in the aerospace industry, you know, like this weirdly is the perfect spot for me. Like I'm uniquely qualified in this space. It's super weird, but I absolutely love my job.
So many things you just said, so many different directions I want to go. First of all, I just interviewed Calvin Ayala.
Yes, I love him.
About a week ago.
What a force.
And we got into a discussion about nerds, about being a nerd, right? And so I think the first question is, do you take offense to the word, right?
Proud. I'm a proud card-carrying, badge-wearing nerd. I think the more we embrace that and the more we lean into it, the more it is associated positively with what it is associated with, which is being smart and loving to learn. It's just a love of learning and experimentation and trying and failing and trying again.
Yes.
And, you know, when you're into that and you love absorbing new information, what's wrong with that?
Well, I think that there was a negative connotation to the word nerd. Probably when you and I were younger, right? Right? And I think that today, I think everybody's a nerd, right? Because we carry that computer in our pocket, right? And we're always researching and whatnot, right? And so I feel
more like, what kind of nerd are you versus like,
got it. But I feel like you were already there, so it's almost like you were here, and you're like, all right, guys, come on in. You guys could all come in now.
Oh yeah, I wasn't super popular in school. I wasn't any of that stuff, you know. Honestly, I was more of like the, you know. I was really into like loud punk music and, you know, sort of the skater scene and grunge. Like that's what I was really into. And so I hung out with like, you know, the less than savory characters, I guess, at school, you know, smoking by the guardrail, that kind of thing. But the truth is that was the front, because I was also a dancer for 25 years. I was in the drama club.
How old are you? I mean, what the hell was going on? 25 years dancing? I'm thinking... did you start dancing at like 2?
I am 40.
You just start dancing at 2? What's going on here?
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the way through college.
Now let me ask you. I'm going to back up a little bit. So you're from New York.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're from New York, and you went to Discovery. You said a Discovery.
I went to a museum magnet school. So I grew up in Yonkers, and I went to PS 25. Represent. And then I was a Pearls kid, which was like you had to take a test to get into it.
Yeah.
Which then became part of the magnet system and partnered with the museum, the Hudson River Museum of Art, which is located right on the river. And it was right when I was entering junior high, they opened up the Hudson River Museum High School. So through that magnet system, I was able to, or junior high, excuse me. So I was able to attend it, and that was a mixed school. So it was like sort of part of this big social experiment of like bringing kids in from like, you know, downtown. And then kids from the Pearls program and seeing how everybody gets along. Didn't work out the way they thought it would.
Okay.
So it was a very short time before there was metal detectors and all kinds of stuff, cops in the building. And
how much of your parents kind of, like, I don't know how to ask it. What influences your parents to want to put you in a
So they tested me
for the magnet school.
Yeah, so I had to take a test to get into the Pearls program.
But was there something you were doing before that? Were you into things as a kid that your parents kind of say, oh, you know what? I think this is, you know, or was it just a good opportunity that they wanted to?
Probably both. So my parents were divorced at that point. So my parents got divorced very young, when I was very young. So I was 5 or 6 when I moved, 6, I guess, when I moved. We lived in like Carmel, New York, which was like, you know, very pretty, like, you know, but that was short lived. And then we moved, I moved with my mom back to Yonkers, because that's where I was born, the Bronx. Moved back to Yonkers. And then, I was a smart kid. I read very early. I started speaking very early. My mom will say that I never shut up. I started at 9 months and I never shut up. But it, you know, they knew that I was smart, and they knew that I wasn't getting the education that I needed in the public school system, especially at the time. You know, we're talking about the late 80s. It was not what it is today, right? So the opportunity to test, I was nominated several times. I was taking, in the 2nd grade, I'll never forget this. In the 2nd grade, I was really good at math. And I was in the math and reading program for the 3rd grade, because they didn't have like an accelerated tag program or anything when I was a kid. So I would do the 3rd grade math and reading. But the 2nd grade teachers, because of what they had to turn in, also made me do the 2nd grade math and reading homework. So I was at a very young age laden down with so much homework. And it really turned me off to the practice of studying and doing your homework, because it was almost like I was being punished for being smart.
For being smart,
And my mom hated it, but it was like a requirement. So as soon as I could test for that program, and then I got in, and so in the 3rd grade I started in the Pearls program, and it was a totally different world. And I think that was the start of my exploration of what I liked to learn versus what I was good at. And those things don't align. And I think it's a really important thing. So that, I think, was the very beginning of, I never really thought about it like that before, but it's true. I think that was the very beginning of my passion for this space that I'm in now.
Yeah.
Which is, telling particularly young women, you are not bad at math. You don't like math, but you're not bad at it. You're actually quite good at it. And no one's going to make you do extra math. And I think that's where they ruined it for me.
Yeah.
So it was years. I'm talking through high school and college before I actually, but it turns out I don't like math, but I am very good at it. Look at the job I do now, right? Yeah. So, you got to wrap your arms around that, and nobody's making that distinction for young people.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing, and embracing things like being a nerd.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and now you're in a position where you can now kind of get that message out, right?
Yes,
through
I'm
the work that you
blessed
do.
To have that platform to be able to share that with kids. And
now you're in school, and I'm just gonna fix your mic up. Right. All right.
Perfect.
Yeah. So now you're in school and you're getting ready to go to college, and so where did you go to college?
I went to New Paltz, SUNY New Paltz. SUNY. Go Hawks. State school, paid for most of it myself. My parents did what they could.
Yeah.
And by that time, both parents were remarried and they had younger families too. So there was only so much to go around.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot coming up anyway. And so now it's spread sort of even thinner. But as my parents' careers grew, they had more. But by that time, I was already sort of taking care of myself. So they did what they could. And I just took out a bunch of loans and got my degree in political theory, actually. But I always had a heart and a passion for special education. So I was kind of doing both tracks. And then eventually I just had to pick one.
Yeah.
And as college kids do, especially if you're, really into politics and, the youthful wanting to change the world and really feeling like I could do it.
Yeah.
So I participated in a lot of local elections, just running statistics, doing numbers, things like that. And it just really engaged me in a different way that I never had exposure to before.
How important is politics? How important is it for the normal Joe or Jill to not get into politics, but just to kind of, I guess, get a better understanding of what politics is? Yeah,
I think. I could go on at length, but I will say this in short. I think that not enough information. I think that information is embedded in the wrong ways. Okay. There's a lot to learn, and there's not enough embedded in the headlines to give people a sense of what's real.
Yeah.
So I would say any headline that you read, regardless of where it comes from, is not information. Okay. It's never information, right? Yeah. So a big part of what I believe is that if we teach our youth how to use their context clues and read between the lines, they can form their own opinions and based on their own personal experiences. But the rise and the advent of the, internet and the modern communication age, it's weird because I'm a weird age, right? I'm 40. So I was this last sort of microcosm, small generation of people that came up with no internet and then all of a sudden had it.
Yes,
right?
Here. Same here.
And so I took notes in college in a notebook. I didn't have a laptop. Exactly. And then, and it feels crazy to say that. I'm not that old, you guys. But it's so we had to go through microfiche and we had to read or what, now it's so easy to slap a headline on something from God knows where. Yeah. And then you're giving people inappropriate information. Yeah. And that's both sides of the line. It's all over the place. Yeah. Nobody's actually speaking from real knowledge and real facts. Nobody is. And the people who do are doing it at such a high level that it doesn't translate well to people who don't even understand how to access that information or what to make of that. So going through those college classes and learning that, I have a great foundation, but not everybody does that.
Well, and I feel like at that point, once it's so much, you kind of just say, you know what, never mind. And you just back up and then you don't learn anything at all.
Right. And the hard part is now, I have an executive seat, right?
Yeah.
The world is run by politics. And I'm not talking about politics in Washington. I'm talking about every day. There's politics behind the scenes at the local grocery store. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Who knows who and who knows, and who's trying to advance themselves in every place you go. It's this new sort of every human for themselves.
Yeah.
Ethos that's out there, and everybody thinks they know better because they can look it up faster or whatever it is, but we're still just grabbing headlines.
Yeah.
So, I think learning that it's everywhere I think that we need to better all as humans learn how to navigate those waters so that we can make intelligent decisions.
Now, just to talk a little bit about what you said about how you're at that, like you're 40, so you were at the place where you didn't have the internet and it just popped up, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like I was in the same place. When I was in high school, I took like a keyboarding class, right?
Yeah.
Just to kind of like learn how to type, right?
Exactly. Now my 11-year-old is like, blah, blah, blah. He probably types faster
but then like when I did it, and I wasn't a nerd anybody who knows me, I was not a nerd. If anything, I was the other side. I mean, I was a mess, right? But I took that class because I thought, oh, this would be like a little easy thing I can do to kind of get it out of the way. Mm-hmm. And so now most people my age, our age, aren't really great typers. Right. Like as far as like, they're kind of like with the one finger or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I felt like I was around the same time and doing those things was so kind of like off that a lot of people didn't do them, right? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, like you said, they're here now. And like you said, like my niece, as well. Like she's on her phone and she's like, I mean, it's insane. Now, when we talk about politics and then we get out of politics, I wanted to ask you, do you feel like we have, whether it's here or just in general, right? Do we have places where we can go that are kind of like bipartisan, right? Places where you can get, where you can trust and you get good information. I know that we talked about, headline reading and how everything is either one way or the other and it's too heavy. Do we still have places where we can go, where we can get information, kind of like the good information?
Yeah.
Both sides?
I am a big fan. This is personal opinion,
of course,
right?
Of course.
But I'm a big fan of NPR. They have a First Up in the morning podcast, which is it is the headlines, but it's broken down. And it's 10 minutes and it breaks down headlines in a he said, she said kind of way. And the way that they do it, and I know some of I can't speak to all of their programming. And I know that there's implicit biases everywhere, but that particular program, I think, breaks down just giving 5 bullet points for each of those flashy headlines that you see and just saying, here's what, that gives you a place to start if you're really interested to go then and look it up and find out. I wouldn't search the headline. I'd search one of those bullet points. And I think that, to me, is an easy lift for most people. And I'm sure there's other outlets that offer that. I just know what I listen to.
But it does exist.
It does exist.
And we could find it.
You just have to know where to look, and you have to, like I said, there's bias everywhere. So you have to be careful. The best thing I can say is that if you're looking for news, is to find a reputable news source and then try and take the superlatives out of it. If and just look at the content for what it is. And then if you want to really research it yourself, which I know people love to do, do it based on that. Just don't do it based on a flashy headline. Because you can go down a rabbit hole that takes you all kinds of crazy places.
Literally,
and I just think that, it's important if you're going to have an opinion, especially if you're going to have a big opinion, that, you should just know everything first before you go there. And it should be from, fact-based research. And if we're talking about like science, when we're talking about, we live in a world of COVID, right? If we're talking about vaccinations and we're talking about flu and pandemics and all of this stuff, and if you're doing your own research, I applaud that. I really do. But make sure that the research you're doing is peer reviewed. Make sure that everything that you're looking at is peer reviewed research there's reason that there's boards for these things, and there are really smart people out there that actually did good research. Use that research. That's all I'm saying. And I think then form your opinions and do what's best for you and your family. But I think that is the route that everyone should go who, are looking these things up, because you have to know that stuff is skewed no matter what, one way or the other, always and everywhere, always. Got it.
All right. So you're in college, you're getting involved in politics, having a lot of fun, all that good stuff.
Saving the world,
saving the. I mean, and I think that's what we're all trying to do in our own way, right? By the time we leave, hopefully we save something or we left it in a better place, right? In a better way. And what happens after that? When do you start to become kind of like the
So I
powerhouse. That's what I want to say. The powerhouse. Like, you're a bit of a powerhouse. You are.
I right out of college, I moved back. So I right when I was 18, I got into college. Away I went. And then I came home for a few months, and I have much younger siblings at home. And there were home life growing up wasn't roses, peaches and cream. There was some unrest in my family. There's, everybody's got their stuff. But being so much older and coming from a different marriage and, navigating all of those waters, it wasn't my time and place. So I quickly got a job, any job that I could, and I moved out as soon as I humanly could, went back to New York. So I got my own little apartment in Crestwood, right by the train station. I worked right in Yonkers. It was awesome. And I got a job with Crestwood Technology Group, which is now a huge powerhouse in the aerospace industry. But when I started, there was like 9 of us in like this office space above a garage. It was wild. But we did parts, avionics. It was obsolescence supply chain, essentially. And we went to all these forums around the world. I mean, I traveled on an expense account. I mean, it was awesome. And I met these people, generals and people who run, Lockheed Martin and Eurocopter. I mean, crazy stuff that you were like, what? And then, and it wasn't where we thought that I would end up, right? I have a lot of friends that were like you because I was very kumbaya. And, but I loved seeing all the inner workings and I was so fascinated by the politics behind everything and finding out the real story from these people who were living it, right? My nerd took over and I was so fascinated. So I did that.
You're 22 living your best life, right? 22,
best
23?
Life, 23. Yeah. I met my husband around that time.
Okay.
And he was, at the time he was in marketing. And we just, we both had good jobs at a young age and we hustled. Right away. And we hustled. He was in a band. He was in a band. He met a friend of mine from back home, went to Villanova. He went to Villanova and they were in a band together. So when they would come play out, they would play in New York. Yeah. And because he's from Connecticut and New York is way better to play out. So little bar in Brooklyn called the Charleston, which is still there, I believe. It's a total dive. But that's how that happened. And the rest is history. We've been together for a long, long time. Yes. We've been married for 13 years. Yeah. That's 2009 great. We got married. Yeah. That's great. So we have 2 kids and, now we're up here. But that's the life I led. Even early in our marriage, like I was living that life. I was hardly ever. There was a time where I went to Atlanta and Washington, D.C. once a month. So I was like I think I traveled 10 times in a year. Wow. And I was gone for probably like 4 or 5 days. So like I wasn't home, we both worked long hours. We hustled. So we saved and we, wanted that life. So we did the picket fence thing. He had the picket fence thing being from Connecticut. I did not have the picket fence, but I hustled. I always was going to hustle. Science Center fun, everybody. I always hustled. I always had that hustle. I always was going to do it myself. Always. Because of just how I came up. And my mom was my really big influence there, being strong and she always told me, make sure you can do for you before you have other people you're responsible for. Yes. And I think her divorce from my dad when I was young took a toll. She had to work really hard. It was just us. And, so she instilled that in me and I never, it wasn't something I ever balked at. I was all in all the time. And you know me, I'm all in all the time. So, I have a lot of energy and I just go for it. And when I'm passionate about something, I make it happen because nobody else is going to do it for me. They didn't. That's it. And so I had to always, so I just never knew another way. Yeah. And that's me. So did you get kind of pulled into Connecticut or did you go to Connecticut? Oh, I was it work? Into Connecticut. Okay. My husband did not want to move to Westchester. Okay. And he and his brother had bought a house with his younger brother who was still in college at the time. But the parents, helped them a little bit. But they bought this house, a real fixer-upper, but it was in New Canaan. Okay. So it was they were fixing it up and doing whatever. And right when they were starting to like settle in and living their bachelor life in New Canaan, which is really nice. His brother met someone and then they wound up getting engaged. And then Doug and I met and we wound up getting engaged. And now, I don't know, his parents have renovated the house. I don't even know what's happening. Yeah. But he said, we have real estate here. He's like, I'm not going to go pay Westchester taxes and all that. And I get that. So I was like, okay, I'm not from here though. Was it hard? I knew that I did not want to live in New Canaan and I did not want to raise a family there just because it was very, let's say, unidimensional. Yeah. It was not where I'm from.
Yeah.
And my husband, who is, a Chinese American, he had a hard time growing up there.
Yeah.
And our kids would be mixed, and we did not want that. We want a real world setting for our kids so they could find their role model and, find people that look like them to, model for them and represent them. And so we were looking all over the place. We were looking at Norwalk and Stamford and Bridgeport. We were looking all over, and we found this little house in Trumbull, this little yellow cottage at the bottom of a hill. And I was like, oh my God. And so by some grace of the universe, we were able to do it. And we've been there ever since.
Nice.
I'm going to be buried on that property because buying a house is not an easy thing to do. I never want to do it again.
So you don't foresee moving out of Connecticut?
No, honestly, I mean, when I'm older, I would like to. I have RA, so it's very hard for me to be in the cold.
Yeah.
So when we're older, we're gonna probably go somewhere warm, maybe west. We'll go.
Yeah.
But I have a big love for the water. So I've never not lived near water.
Yeah.
And I get weird, like even going to like Vegas or what. I get weird after a certain amount of time where I'm just like, okay. I'd rather be cold.
Yeah.
Like I just need to be near.
So west, but not south?
It's not my vibe.
Okay.
My dad is in Florida, so we go and visit him, and it's beautiful.
It's a nice vacation, but it's not.
But I don't think I could live there.
Yeah.
No, it's not my jam. Not a lot of science centers and stuff. although Cape Canaveral is down there, which is awesome. So I do visit those areas too, which is great. I want my kids to see the Space Center and all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, probably not. Probably more west. We eventually, my husband and I, we have this grand plan where we'd like to sell our house and buy they call it like a land yacht, like a fancy like Winnebago type deal, and like just like travel and see the world.
So me and my wife, we just talking about this morning because we want to buy one and just go try like in the summer.
I want to see the whole country.
Just drive around,
Yeah, but then I would like to go to Canada and I'd like to go to Mexico and I just want to like see the continent.
Yeah, we were just talking about that a few hours ago. That's super interesting. Now, before we get, because I feel like we're like slowly but surely getting into like today, right?
Yeah.
But before we get there, I wonder your kids and their interest in what you do, right? So you have a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old, right?
Yeah, 6.
So
he just turned
6-year-old, yeah. So I don't know the 6. I'm not too sure, but the 10-year-old, is he really interested in your work?
He's a full-on science kid, actually. And people laugh, well, and my mom does work. It's not me. Both my kids are really smart and they're really into it and has nothing to do with me. They just love it. I think the benefit to me being here is that as exposure.
Yes.
So they are exposed to it.
Yeah.
And they love that, here at the Science Center, we pride ourselves on, giving kids the tools and then get the hell out of the way.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, what did we just say? We didn't even have internet, Eddie, right?
Yeah.
So when I got my new phone and I was like, and I'm reading the thing or whatever, my 10-year-old takes the phone from me. Mother, here. I'm like, mother, okay. But the truth is they know and we don't, right?
Yeah.
So we know up to a point. So we can give them the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Then get out of their way.
Yeah.
Because our way was the way.
Yeah.
But it's not the way forward. And I don't know the way forward because they do. It's their future, not ours. And I think that's a really hard thing to wrap your head around. But I think some people get a little too into their own mortality when they think about it. But the truth is, they're so much smarter than we were. Because they are offered more fundamentals than we were. Yeah. And they're exposed to things like this. When I talk to a kid, you could ask any of the kids around here too. Everybody knows me. I'm the museum lady. But I don't talk to them like they're children. I talk to them like they are adults. Yeah. Babies, I talk to like, well, hi there. I don't, what's that? That's Science on Sphere. I just read to my son yesterday. We did a snowflake craft. But I went in there talking about, fractals and six-sided snowflakes, and I made them all say fractals. And then we were talking about like atmospheric pressure and how evaporation and condensation. Yeah. And they were so into it. And the teacher's looking at me like I have 6 heads, and the kids are like, condensation. So you know what? Yeah. They will learn what you teach them.
Exactly.
What they're exposed to. Yeah. And then after that, they went to library. And guess who came home with a book on the water cycle? My son, who is a sports kid, like you said, he was into, he's more of like the jock side of things. He's 6 years old, but you know what? He loves learning about. No,
they do. I have a 5-year-old at home, and I just learned a couple of days ago about the life cycle of a leaf.
Yes.
And why does it turn like orange.
Did you read Tiny Seed?
And all this stuff, huh?
Tiny Seed.
Yeah, and I'm just like, and it's insane.
Yeah, but they know.
Yeah,
and they know all the words, and they know. Yes, absolutely.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think probably because of what you do, maybe your kids trust you a little more. But I feel like mine doesn't really trust me.
Because they're smarter than we were. I'm not even kidding.
So even if I'm right, I'm wrong, unless Mrs. Valentine's teacher says it. If she says it, it's.
So you know what's interesting? It's so funny. That's just being a parent, because I am the authority for 80,000 kids a year. Yeah. But when it comes to my own kids, so my son, my older one, is kind of like a troll. He'll be like, "Is it though?" And I was like, watch it. But then he'll say like, "Just because you have a science museum." But they will look it up. Yeah. Like, they love that. Well, let's Google it. Let's look it up. Yeah. I'm going to search it up, he says. And I'm like, search it up. I give them access like that because I want them to be able to search it up. And they watch a lot of YouTube. Yeah. But my kids watch Mark Roberg, who's an engineer, or How Ridiculous. Have you seen those guys? They're great. Yeah. It's all experiments. They Mythbuster. They love that stuff. And so I'm like, go for it, man, because they're determined to break some sort of record. You will see the Eng boys one day break some sort of engineering record, and I'm going to be like, I just say yes. That's all I do. And it's the same thing with my staff, and my team will tell you. I am not an astronomer, and I'm not a physicist, and I'm not a marine biologist, but they are. So I'm really good at the big picture, and then I get the hell out of their way. Yeah. I'm not trying to do your job for you. Yeah. That's why this place is what it is now. It's because of them, not because of me. But I'm in a position to let it happen. Yes. And I think that
empower and then let them
empower. And that's it. But that's the same with kids, right? It's the empowerment and appreciating that they do know and not underestimating them, because everybody underestimates kids.
Take me behind the scenes of your conversation with your husband in regards to parenting and education, right? Mm-hmm. Did you guys talk about, whether or not you're going to emphasize the importance of college and, secondary education and all that stuff? Or is it more of a sit back and let's see what they want to do?
Both.
Okay.
So we do see the value in higher education, but we do not disparage a choice otherwise, as long as there's creative career path there. And we're not the ones that are going to tell you what the careers are of the future, because who knows? Yeah. And I think that both of us are we know we have smart, talented kids, mm-hmm. and we just bolster that however they can. So when they're interested in something, we didn't grow up with a lot. Yeah. And I mean, my husband's from New Canaan, but they didn't have a whole lot. His dad is from another country and wanted to make something. So he sunk everything they had into living there so that they would have the best opportunities, the best education, right? For me, it was more of a, circumstantial situation, but it was, they were, whatever we could do, whatever was available to us, we were going to take, we were going to accept, we were going to, make the most of it, exploit it to its fullest, right? So we both are very like-minded in that we know that our kids have a lot because we worked real hard. Yeah. But that, nothing's going to be handed to them. They're going to have to work hard for what they want. And if they want one of those cool new jobs that we're seeing, that's a thing. That's a thing. Yeah. And I want them exposed to all of that. Yeah. Some of it doesn't require higher education. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't, right? Or I won't say that. Higher education, yes, but a formal college degree, no. Yes. And I think it's important that we look at going through an elementary and secondary education through high school, do that, because it's not just for the education and the degree. It's for the social aspects. Yes. And having opportunities to do things after school with a pod that you came up with, right? Yeah. So that's important. I moved around a lot as a kid. My kids have not known anything other than this. Yes. So connect with that. I never had that, and it's real important. Yeah. So I love that. And so we do think that that's really important. But once you get to that second place, if you want to take a year off and travel, we're good with it. Yeah. If you want to, if you've saved up and you've done the right things to make sure that you can do what you want with that adulthood when you're 18, by all means, because that means you learn something, right? Yeah. And you're going to learn a lot more when you're on your own. Yes. So we support, whatever it is that they want to do, as long as it is not solely dependent on us. Yeah, because we will be selling our house and driving across the country. Okay. We talked about this. We settled this already. Yes. No, definitely. It's settled. So this interview that
doing it at the moment that we're in right now. We're doing it inside the Discovery Museum in Bridgeport. And you're the executive director, right? How did you get to where you're at now?
So I was in aerospace for a while, and then I had my first son, and I was in traffic pregnant, and it was after one of the hurricanes, about 10 years ago. And I was in traffic. And it just all came down on me at once. And I was crying in traffic. And I was so angry. It was like anger, fear. It was fury tears, you know? And I was like, I can justify being away from my kids for my work. I cannot justify being away from them for additional hours while I'm sitting in traffic. Like, I can't do it. Every day will be like this. And I can't.
2-3 hours a day in traffic.
And I will not be I won't be a good mom. I won't be good at my job because when I'm here, I want to be with them. When I'm there, I'll feel like I didn't do enough there. It just wasn't going to work out. So after my maternity leave and really seeing, it was how I said, let me see how I feel when it comes down to it. And when it came down to it, I was like, I cannot go back there. Like, everything flooded back. And I was like, oh no, it's so much healthier for me to not be doing that. And at the time, my husband had just gotten a new job and he was doing okay. And he was, we could float for a little while. So I resigned and I stayed home. And it turns out that I am not a stay-at-home mom.
Got it.
I was climbing the walls and finding things to do and create. It was just
like the mom part, being with your son was amazing,
right? Every minute of it, because my parents weren't around a lot because they both worked when I was a kid. And I was a latchkey kid, and in Yonkers, and I laughed too. I had a key to my house, and I was like 11. My son is turning 11, and in no way, on no planet or universe would I ever be like, here you go. Nope. So it's so different. It's just so different. Boredom of necessity, of course, but like, But so they.
But you're a doer, so you're home. And it's great, but you're not doing anything.
Right. I wanted to do more. I wanted to, my business acumen was screaming inside of me. How can I create my own? I did. I actually created a company and launched my own cake making company because I'm.
Wait a second.
I'm an avid baker.
This is what I'm talking about. Hey, so you're a baker?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and a cook. And so I launched my own cottage industry, and it floated. It was grocery money and gas money.
Get out of here
for a while.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Can I give you can I reach out, or did you kind of retire?
I retired kind of because what I'm doing now just takes up so much of my time that but for a while that was I was all in, and everybody locally I had a really good little following for a while. But it was it was not quite what I wanted it to be, and I was working with I was on a church vestry. I was on boards. I was on doing all the things, and it was it was really me trying to find what my next thing
trying
was.
To figure it out.
I knew that I wanted to go into nonprofit. I just didn't know how to translate what I was doing.
Got it. Yep.
And I had a heart for so many different causes. I did the Midnight Run for years and years with my husband. He started doing it. That's how I knew I wanted to marry him. He joined the Midnight Run with me and went out, and never being exposed to that sort of thing, jumped right in serving soup and coffee to the homeless poor in New York, and just having conversations, no judgment, no whatever. And I'm like, that guy right there, he's a good one, It's a hard thing to do.
Got one.
If you've never been exposed to it, it's a hard thing to do. And
you're like, Mom, I got one.
Yeah, I got one. He was nice to all my favorite homeless people. It was awesome. And we had a crew, and they knew who we were, and they would show us all the Law and Order trailers. They'd be like, "Iced tea's over here." And they would show us. It was awesome. And we loved just just fellowship with them and talking to them and learning their stories, And he did it. And I was like, so I knew I wanted to do that, but I didn't, I didn't know how or what, what made that okay? Who the heck am I? Because I didn't have any, other than my volunteer work, I didn't really have any. Anyway, so
you're looking for that missing kind of link, right? So you're like, okay, purpose, nonprofit, gift. This stuff. Okay, where's the avenue? How do I get to link both these together?
Exactly. Yeah. Like PR, whatever. So I was thinking grant writing. I wasn't sure because that's what I did with sales and PR, and it's kind of the same thing. Yeah. But I didn't really know that then. Yeah. So I got a job around the corner from the daycare we put my son in because I'd never really been away from him. Yeah. And it was a vet. Yeah. And Tana Barnes, our operations director now. I stole her from that vet.
Okay.
And we, she didn't steal her. She voluntarily came.
Let's correct that. I'll edit this.
All I did was provide an opportunity. But I worked for her, and we were just doing front desk work, and, you know, she was the office manager, and I just, you know, kept the records and helped with books and did whatever, you know, appointments. And so then this opportunity here doing events came up, and John Chamberlain, who we're friends with, mutual friends.
I love John.
We went to church together.
How do you not?
He's like one of my favorite humans.
Let's do like a John segment.
Oh my God.
Like, how do you not love John?
He's probably just one of the best humans.
He is. I mean, I barely can know him, right?
Yeah.
But when I know of him, I love him. Like right away, as soon as I met him, I was like, I love this guy.
Yeah,
who is he?
He's just so like dialed in and understands that, you know,
he just made a move to Stratford.
Yeah.
Right?
He's working with Amanda now, Amanda Mason at Sterling House, which I know is an awesome fit for him.
Yes.
I mean, I think that he found his niche for sure. Yeah. But so he was here.
Okay.
And so he found me, and he said, Erika, because we sat on the church vestry together. I knew him for years. And he said, and actually at the time, the finance director, he was also someone who I sat on the church vestry with. Got it. So they were like, come on. So I applied and I got the job. And then like very shortly after that, the director of guest services quit. Okay. And they gave me her job. So I was part-time and I was easing back into it. And then I accepted the position and sort of changed things a little bit and really just started like building up the business side of this place, which was, you know, they needed revenue. There wasn't a lot coming through grants at the time. And there was some main grants and they were great. But, you know, John was just trying to John was in development. So he was all focused on that and really wrapping his arms around that, trying to get that. So I focused on earned revenue, and then they made me the business operations director, and then I was made COO. So we kind of like through different iterations.
So are we talking like
over about
5 years?
6 years. So I started here in the end of 2015 or the beginning of 2016, around there.
Yeah.
And so that was the progression. And then there were also several administrative changes here during that time. And so when I was COO, this place, there was a lot of capital improvements that needed to happen and just no money to do it. Okay. So there was only so much that could be done at the time. Yeah. And so I was given another opportunity, and I felt that having two people in a C-suite position in a place this small was just not practical. Yeah. So it freed up a lot of revenue for them. So I stepped away and I went to another organization called Wolfgang & Co., an awesome organization that does job training for young adults with special needs. And I fell madly in love with all of them. It was so great, but literally 6 weeks later, COVID hit.
Oh, okay.
And the entire population that we served were high risk and stuck in their houses and on all different types of developmental and intellectual disabilities. So we did some digital stuff. I mean, I did what I could, and we wrote a lot of grants to try and, keep the organization afloat, but it was so small that it was okay. Yeah. So we parted ways because it just didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense anymore. Yeah.
Any of the growth plans and all the stuff that we were hoping to do, like it just wasn't really viable.
Yeah.
So that happened. And then a couple of days later, I got a call from the former board chair here, and who at the time was board chair, and the interim director, who was Terry O'Connor. Yeah. And he said, well, a little bird told me that someone might be available again, because he knew the board.
Days later.
Okay. From the other organization. And so days later. And you know me, I panicked. So my husband's like, take a few weeks off. Your distance. Now, meanwhile, mind you, I had 2 kids, distance learning, one of whom was 3, who was climbing the walls, the ever-loving walls, right? Yeah. And he turned around to me one day and said, he's hanging out with 40-year-olds all day, right? So he turned around and he said, something happened. I don't know, cup spilled or something like that. He said, you got to be freaking kidding me. And I was like, he needs to go to school. He should not be hanging out with us. Yeah. He would pretend to be writing grants at the table. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. All right. So anyway, the stars aligned.
Yeah.
They said, you know, we've got this partnership with the university, and they're gonna infuse some infrastructure into the place.
Sacred Heart University.
Sacred Heart University.
Okay.
And they had struck a deal, a management agreement, which essentially was the operations of this place, the facility operations. So they infused this place. We got fiber optic internet. They pulled all new cabling for our network, our phone systems. We have security. We didn't have security before, but too late because now we do. And I mean, all of it, honestly, proper tap locks on the doors, like everything. Yeah. So they were incredible, and we would not have been able to do. It's worth noting. I want the world to know, honestly, that they were great, and they continue to be great. We have an awesome partnership. So that agreement, which was really operational in nature, really expanded now into all kinds of collaborations in a programmatic and educational space. Yes. So it's been really exciting, and we write co-grants together, and we're doing all this great stuff. So that was the quick progression there. Yeah. But so when I came back, though, they said, we emptied it out. Do you want to remake the museum? Like, do you want to make a museum? Yeah. And I was like, is this real, Bob? And he said, it's real, Erika. And I'm like, yeah. My husband's standing on the side going, I'm like, because like he knows, like I was constrained by so many things, and so I dove into research. I mean, you know me, when I'm given something, I go all in. So I dove into research, white papers, and all of my favorite rock stars in the industry. I mean, what are they doing to keep current, and what are the standards, and what are this, and came up with a plan to align everything to the educational standards and sciences that are burdening the public school districts, right? Especially in Bridgeport. Yeah. Because I said, first things first, and as terms of my on board, they'll tell you too. As I said, Wednesdays have to be free for Bridgeport residents because we need to increase the price of what we're offering if we're going to increase the experience here. Got it. But it still needs to be accessible to the local population. I will not make it so that it's in the residents' backyard. It's their museum. So we made it free for those residents, and now we're able to really, and that just was the first thing. And the fact that we remain a 501c3 nonprofit, but just with this experiential support of the university, that has been an awesome model. And now looking at, talking to other organizations with similar partnerships, we've been very successful. So other people are kind of looking at our partnership, asking about it, because how do we make this work for everybody? And so far, I mean, knock wood, I hope they would agree, but we're doing really great things here. We've changed the entire footprint of the place. We've been able to just reimagine the space completely top to bottom. And I'm grateful to not only the board, but for seeing that potential in me that I could do that, because there was 5 people here and our budget was very slim. And I said I could do it. And everyone thought I was crazy, but I had some board members, some, not all, some board members that were like, no, she can. Yeah. That we're going to let her do her thing. Trust me. They'll and then they said, like, we're out on a limb here. And I was like, I got this. And I have this team of amazing unicorns that just did all the things and got behind me and said, yeah, we'll do that. And they did. And I knew they could. And it felt impossible, and it seemed impossible. And it was impossible. We did it. Yeah. And I'm so proud and just honored that they took my vision and ran with it, because I couldn't do all those things myself. I needed everybody on board, and they leaned right into it, and they welcomed me back with open arms. And that's it. That's the story. Now,
at what point did you, or maybe you haven't, right? But at what point do you look in the mirror and say, I found it? Like this was the missing link. This was you know what I mean? Yeah. Or have you not yet?
Oh no, I mean, okay, yeah. I love my job. I can remember feeling the stress that everybody knows, I got to work today, blah, blah, blah. And I remember getting to that point. It's like this jaded kind of point where you can feel that cold, like anxiety, you know? And I just don't have that anymore. And I know that's like a weird thing to say for most people, but I don't. I look forward to coming here. I know there's problems. It is not without its problems. Any nonprofit has so many problems. Yeah. And then nonprofits who operate their own facility, so many problems.
Do you like problems?
I like a challenge. There's no challenge that I like to problem solve.
Yes, and that's what I mean. Yeah.
I'm a really solutions-driven person, and sometimes they are very unorthodox. But to me, just like I said before, we don't know the path forward. You got to give the kids the tools and then let them lead the way.
Yeah.
It's the same, right? I don't think if there's no solution to a problem, it's just because we haven't done it yet. Doesn't mean there is no solution.
Yeah.
It just means that what we've done isn't going to work. Yeah. But that doesn't mean we can't do something different, which always seems crazy at first.
Of course.
And it does 100% of the time. Is it the right answer?
Yeah.
No. Did I luck out that this really worked out the way that in my mind I thought it would? Yes. But I'll tell you what, more often than not, if you go all in and it's not crazy, like if it's founded in research, it's not like I came in and said, well, I have this crazy vision. I did a lot of background work to make sure that we were hitting all of the marks industry-wise and then supporting the local community and the schools. That's a lot of things to look at.
Yeah.
And once there's a sweet spot, there's always going to be a sweet spot. And I think once you find that, that's what you exploit. That's my process. And I don't know if that makes sense at all.
No, it does. To me it does. To me it does. But I'm a little crazy too, so we're both crazy.
Yes.
But you and I have had conversations in the past. We've gotten together plenty of times for different meetings in different places and just ate food and talked. And we talked a lot about things that you're doing within the museum so that folks from the Latino community could come in and feel welcome, feel like they belong, like they come in here, right? And so I would love for you to kind of expand on the things you've done to make it, kind of more comfortable for those folks, for Latinos, for Blacks in the inner city to come in and enjoy what's here.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I think making sure that everybody knows how accessible this place is to everybody.
Yes.
That's the number one. And when we talk about accessibility, I'm not talking about physical accessibility or just ADA, although that is a big focus for us. I'm talking about for every person to come in here and have an experience.
Yeah.
Because there's 3 floors and infinite iterations of what can be done here with the resources we have. But if it's not in your language, or if you can't see it or hear it, how is it accessible to you?
Yes.
So we took a different stance. We're not looking to speak directly to different specific communities.
Yeah.
We're looking at how can we interact with this in every way possible. What makes this accessible in a 360 kind of way, if you will. So what we've done is on the new exhibits we've been able to create them in 6 different languages, which are the 6 most commonly spoken languages out of 28 that are spoken in Bridgeport.
Yeah.
But right now we have every sign that we update is updated in English and Spanish. And then from there, we're adding QR codes and working with a company that translates it into those other languages. So some of our exhibits are already in those 6 languages.
So you could easily just scan.
It's a QR code with your phone.
And read,
So anything you come up to, it'll tell you how to interact with it in your own choice. So you scan it, it says to pick a language, you pick it, and then that exhibit comes up in your language.
Oh, okay. Love it.
So most of the new signage is going to just be bilingual English-Spanish, but then the opportunity for those other 4 languages.
It's just a scan away.
Just going to be a scan away. And some of them are already there. And, it takes a lot of time. And we work with a company that does the translations for us.
Yeah.
But this is the place where we check it a little bit extra. And you've already done some of this work for us. We reach out to a community member.
Yeah.
They translated it.
Yeah.
But is it accessible? Is it colloquial? Is it something that folks will understand? Because it's not just cerebral. Yes, we're a museum. Yes, we're giving you information on something. But going back to don't just read the headlines.
Yeah.
Because the rest of it seems too wordy and inaccessible.
Yeah.
We want it to be accessible.
Yeah.
So we're putting things in, like some of the things you're like, yes, but we could say it this way.
Yeah.
That's the way to say it.
Got it.
I would rather it be that way.
Yeah.
We've asked staff members, community members from all walks of life to take a peek at this and make any edits.
And I could vouch for that because I've gotten those emails from you, kind of saying,
I know this is actually right, but is that how you would say it if you were describing it to somebody?
Exactly.
No, and use this word. Great. And we want to do that because we want it to be familiar, comfortable, and accessible so that you're getting the information in a way that you are comfortable receiving the information.
Yeah.
It's not how I'm comfortable giving it to you. It's about how you're all going to receive it. And that means this person, that person, and every person in between. So when we're saying my big 3 things, this is my strategic thing.
The big 3 things. Let's
go. Big 3 things. It's accessibility, scalability, and sustainability.
Okay.
So accessibility, accessible to everyone, regardless of ability, background, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Scalability, any age, we are teaching rocketry to kindergartners.
Yes.
So we can scale anything. And that's really important because you're meeting people on their level, not what some predetermined, most people developmentally are here at this age.
Yeah.
Well, no, they're not, right? Yeah. And that all depends on if you came here already speaking English.
Yes.
That matters if you have a learning disability that went undiagnosed for many years because of your where you live and the resources available to that school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So again, how you can receive it, there should be an option for you to interact with it on your level.
Yeah.
And then sustainability is, how can we make this so that we're not constantly applying for the same grants over and over again, but how can this be a self-sustaining thing where we can make a little revenue on here, but we can help the schools write grants so that they can all come here so that we can write a grant for a new program so that next year the schools can write a grant to come and experience it, et cetera. So partnering with the community, again, at their level in ways that are accessible to them so that we can continue to deliver programming here in support of what's coming down the pike from the educational standards that are across the country, right? The new Common Cores and all the NGSS standards and all of that. Bridgeport schools, some, not all, but some Bridgeport schools are still using outdated, materials. With the internet, it makes things a lot easier, but not everybody has access to the internet at home.
Yeah.
The kids are carrying around a lot of paper.
Yeah.
So if we can create something, that you can tell a kid something 300 times before they actually remember it.
Yeah.
They do it once, and it creates an actual wrinkle in your brain that becomes part of your memory lexicon, right? So you're learning something. If you do it 3 times and the outcomes are different, the principle sticks with you. Yeah. So we have that. So the schools shouldn't have to constantly upgrade and upgrade and upgrade, right? It's cheaper to come here.
Yeah.
So if we can continually do that and continue in service to the schools, we're not only providing them with the minimum because that's all that can be afforded, but we're actually giving everybody in the Fairfield County region or anyone who comes here with their school an edge because we have this high tech, resources available. Mm-hmm. So, and they'll be available to everybody. So talk about, trying to level the playing field and all of that stuff. I mean, I can't control where you started at, but I can make sure that you have the same things in your hands that everybody else does, or maybe that they don't, let's put our kids in, try and put our kids first, right? Yes. Why not?
No, I love it. I love it. And for me, I mean, a lot of that translates to the Discovery Museum not being one size fits all. And that's amazing.
Nothing is one size.
Well, yes, but true. But I think in many ways, and I think we could, this whole discussion could be a whole nother hour if we get into this, right? Yeah. But I think in many ways, the education system was made to be one size fits all when it shouldn't be, because we're not one size fits all, right? And so it's amazing that we should do in here, and hopefully others will see and kind of like,
Yeah, and speaking to your earlier point, like representation matters.
Yes.
Because if the socioeconomic backgrounds are not being represented at every table where these high-level discussions are taking place, resource appropriations are never going to go where they're supposed to go. Yeah. And if you make it inaccessible for your immigrant population, for example, to be able to express their needs because they're too scared to even put their name on the paper, then it makes it really difficult to know how many people are in need, and the funds don't go where they're supposed to go. Mm-hmm. So I think in a broader sense, by being that accessible here and having that trust and comfort level, by partnering with community centers like people, the community leaders like you and like Lorraine Gibbons and like Sabrina Smeltz, like the more we can do that, and Helen Ramirez, right? If we can partner in the right way, then they'll give us the cred that's needed, right? If they trust us, they can help build trust in those communities. Exactly. And when they bring them here, they see things in their own language, then it's not frightening anymore, right? We're all going to reach out and grab it. And once you do that, boom, then you've got the same opportunities, you've got the same resources as everybody else.
No, I think that's true, and I think that's super genius of you, because of course a lot of these people who you mentioned have already created that trust, and they've already built that trust with the community. Exactly. And so you partnering up with them is just like the right move.
And I look who I am, and I know who I am, and I know what I look like, right? And I need to make sure that folks of color in the community are saying, no, she's cool. Trust me, listen to what she's saying.
Yeah.
But there's that piece. But then there's also the piece where like, I do recognize that I'm given a stage more often than some other people who maybe deserve it more.
Yeah.
So I do my best to represent what the needs and wants of the community that comes to me that I know that I can serve.
Yeah.
And I also try and make space so that other people could say it because they're the ones that need to be heard.
Definitely.
And I know I try really hard to do that. And you have said that to me before. And that day I went home like, I'm doing something right. Like that's huge because I want to be able to make the space, you know, if I'm the one being given the space, don't just listen to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I got it. Before we end this amazing podcast, which I'm loving, by the way, we could do this all day. Let's talk about the museum. Let's talk about what a week like in what a week in the museum looks like as far as people can come and what they can expect here.
Yeah. So, as part of like the whole reimagining, right? You're coming here for like a fully immersive experience. We're moving towards all of our things being not just like the hands-on mechanical stuff that is science centers of the past, right? This one included. Everything we're doing now is forward thinking. It's more interactive. We have a lot of digital collateral, but like we have this new art installation coming in called Tactile Images. So it's basically all different ways to experience art without having to be visually inclined. So you can feel the art, you can hear the art, you can smell the art. There's actually like there's sunflowers, for example, and it does emit a fragrance every so often, and the wind is blowing and you can hear it, and the leaves rustling. And so and it's all topographical, so the whole thing can be felt. And it's visually stimulating. So, but you're basically, you're using all of your senses to experience it. And it's not just so that visually impaired folks can experience art. It's so everyone can learn to experience art in 4 or 5 different ways. And I think if we start taking that approach to a lot of different things, it doesn't feel like such a lift and it doesn't other anybody. It makes everybody be able to experience things in whatever way they can.
Perspective. Love it. Yes.
But a week here, I mean, nothing's the same. Ever. That's why I love it, because I never sit still. We're always doing something, right? But every day we're open 7 days a week. Mondays are only open to members. Wednesdays are free for Bridgeport residents, though everyone's invited. We have the weekend, we're open until 6 o'clock during the week, so folks can come after school. And then on the weekends, we're 10 to 5. We have planetarium shows every single day of the week, 7 days a week. We have live science demonstrations almost every single day of the week. We have all different things happening in all 3 floors of our interactive experiences, and we are changing this place. We have one gallery that always changes, right? We have one traveling gallery now, and we update things here and there throughout each gallery as we go. So it's always going to stay fresh, and it's always going to be aligned with the needs of the public school system and the community, the scouts. We listen to everybody. And we try and take as much of it into account as we can, and we split the difference and create.
That's great. And as far as being able to find information on the museum, there's a website, there's different things.
www.shudiscovery.org.
If you're watching on YouTube, it'll be down in the description. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, wherever you're at, it'll be in the description. Now, if I go on the website, can I find information on maybe what's coming up as far as some of these places? Some of the rooms here changed throughout the year?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can we know ahead of time? Because I missed the dinosaurs and I ended up getting bats. And bats are okay.
What you say about bats?
But I wanted dinosaurs.
Well, we did keep Rex, if you noticed. We couldn't let him go. So yes, that is all that, and it was on the website, Eddie. I'm going to tell you. And we put out a press release. This is your last chance, everybody. You want to see the dinos? So it's a 6 month
cycle.
Around, 6 month cycle. And we are actually, the next thing up is going to be the deep, the mysteries of the deep. So Marianas Trench, and down here we have space, right? And then upstairs, sort of backwards, I guess. We're going to have the ocean all the way at the bottom, which also is home to its own set of alien creatures, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that, bioluminescence, and all kinds of things there. So we have, and this, I mean, honestly, I exist within joy on a daily basis. Who could not be happy about that? The only thing I can say is it does get a little overstimulating auditorily.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I go home, if things get really loud or whatever, I get like, just need a minute of quiet. But it is, I mean, it is joy. We operate and exist within an abundance of joy.
What can last question, I promise. What can we do as a community to help you and the mission of the Discovery Museum?
Yeah, thank you for asking. The first thing you can do for this mission is to go to your local science center, be that this one or one that's near you. Take your kids to art museums. Yeah. Take your kids to cultural centers. Take your kids to community centers when they have an open house day. Learn your environment. Learn the people that you live with. And learn what your region has to offer, because I think it's really important to know that these little jewels exist.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be someone there who's willing to tell you all about it if you only ask.
Yeah.
So if you see some little hokey museum or bookshop or whatever, go in and just ask, because honestly, you'll probably find your new favorite place. Yeah. So that's one. Two would be put this place on your list.
Yeah, come
here. It's pretty awesome, and give us feedback. You can talk to anybody, anytime at the front desk. Any one of us walking around and give us feedback. And that could be from, there's no toilet paper in the bathroom, or the airplane exhibit is missing paper, to, what would be really great if you had some sort of, the whole Science at Play area over there was born of me walking around this place with a nursing infant and then a 5-year-old who wanted to go climb stuff.
Yeah.
And I had no place to do it. I had no place. So we built a lounge, a family lounge, and a nursing room, and a place for the little ones to play, so that you could have a minute to do what you got to do and in comfort. Yeah. And I think things like that, we don't know because no one's ever told us, or else we would be here. So tell us.
Yes.
Give us your input. We love it.
Let's know what you think. Talk to me 2 seconds about leadership, and maybe add in a little bit about the women's leadership network that you chair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Leadership. I told you my sort of trajectory, right? Of course, yeah. So that wasn't me looking for a top position. That was me looking for a way to exact what I know had to be done. So I did it, and I fought for that. So it was more mission focused than career focused for me. However, my dad will tell you that they called me the director since I was a little kid. I didn't like getting sandy at the beach. Yeah. But I loved building sandcastles. Got it. So I would direct, I'd be like, oh, let's do this thing. And I would get everyone all excited. And then I would have everyone build my idea. And he's like, the thing is, they would do it. I don't know why they would do it, but they would do it and be happy about it. And I'm like, I don't know. He's like, you were nice, but you did not get dirty. And I'm like, so they were joke. Here comes the director. But the truth is, it's not something I'm very good at, but I knew I wanted to see it or experience it, right? So people who are, I think I knew that about people since I was a little kid. Yeah. I think leadership is important. Leadership, I view my role as a support role. My staff will tell you that. Whatever you need to get this vision completed, right? To get this thing done. And
you work for them.
I work for them.
Got it.
It's not just me in the trenches, I help out. I do. But it's more, I was laying flooring in a dress and heels one day, right? We'd laugh about it because I was putting down this floor while we're trying to get this place open after a fancy meeting with Sikorsky and Lockheed Martin. Well, I didn't bring a change of clothes, but we got to get the floor done. So everybody downstairs, we're laying flooring. So, things like that. But it's not even about that. It's about trust in knowing that. I don't micromanage people. That's not what my degree's in. That's not what my experience is in. So I'm not going to tell you how to teach a class. I'm not going to tell you what curriculum it is. I'll give you the resources. And if you need to know what the newest curriculums are and you need me to call somebody, I'll do it. I have no problem. Yeah. I'll call the president if I have to. I just will. And we'll see what happens. I have no problem doing that. That's not comfortable for a lot of people. I have zero problem doing that.
Got it.
If I need it, I'll ask.
Yeah.
So if they need it, they ask.
Yeah.
And then I'll find it. And so I think it's a great relationship, knowing that we're all working towards a common goal, but knowing that everybody plays a part in this bigger, we're a team.
Yeah.
In a real way. It sounds so hokey, but we're a team, but we really are. We are. And that's what we say too, your team. I don't, the staff. It's the teams.
Yeah. So before, a little while ago, I was on the phone with my brother. He called me and to kind of complain about the last podcast I did, because I have this thing that I do at the end of every podcast that I didn't do with Calvin at my other podcast, and he called me to kind of complain. So Manny, I'm doing it right now. Okay. So we're gonna end this with 2 questions. Okay. So we're gonna take it back home, take it back to Erika. Okay. The first question is your favorite meal, your favorite dish. I'm sorry, favorite dish.
Well, that's really hard. I love food.
Top 3.
Okay. I would say I love my grandmother's lasagna.
Got it.
And she's no longer here, but I make it on Christmas Eve.
Okay.
That's probably one of my favorite meals, although I make it. So I don't know if that's okay.
No. That's fine because
I love my lasagna.
No, that's fine because the follow-up question to that is always from who or from where, and you said your grandmother.
My
so it's the
lasagna.
And
she's from Ireland, by the way, so it's not like Italian lasagna.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it's home.
Do you want to give us 2 more, or you want to go to the next question? You want to stick to lasagna?
I think I'm going to stick with the lasagna.
Okay, let's stick to that.
My grandma's lasagna.
And then the final question is favorite song at the moment. What's on replay right now?
I do have it's with the kids yelling. It's hard for me to think because I was just singing and I can't get it out of my head, and now it's gone.
Is it a Christmas song? It's not like Mariah Carey or anything. Okay.
No. What was I singing? Now I'm going to remember it at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's going to get stuck in my head.
Text me later.
I am going to text you.
I'll put it in the description when she texts me.
Let me tell you, I listen to a lot of music, but I want to think because I know I've got some good ones in here. We're
going to edit this whole part out. It's going to cut right here, and it's going to skip all the way to whenever she remembers whatever her favorite song is.
Okay, yeah, you're going to have to give me time. I feel on the spot, and I listen to so much music. I'll tell you this. I love the Violent Femmes. Okay. And for some reason, this time of year, I wind up listening to them a lot.
Yes.
Maybe because it's a little bit it's a little bit offbeat and weird, and it's kind of a dark time of year. But I do love pretty much anything by the Violent Femmes. So I do love them. And my husband's in a band, and I was listening to his new song this morning. So maybe
he's still in it. He's
a gigging musician, my husband. He works for NBC Sports. You should podcast him. He won an Emmy. My husband has an Emmy. On my mantle, you will find a TV, some kid art, the elf, and my husband's Emmy. No joke.
You're standing there.
It's the wildest thing. We don't even have it in a display case. It's just there. Yeah. It's so funny. He goes, "Who's going to steal it? It has my name on it." Yeah. But it's so wild.
Awesome. That's awesome. I've never met him. He looks and seems like a cool guy from pictures and stuff.
He plays hockey. He plays bass in a gigging band called Trashing Violet. Check him out. And they're awesome. They're so awesome. He has his lead singer is a woman, which I love, a band with a female lead, and she will tear the house down. I mean, it's real. They're really good. They jive really well together.
Send me the information. I'll put it in the description. That way, if anybody wants to follow and see what it's all about.
Yeah. And anytime you're listening to, I think it's PLR or 99.1. Is that PLR?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Or 99.9.
I'm not sure the actual.
I'll get you the real thing, and you can put it in the thing. Yeah. They do play when it's new Connecticut music. They get radio time.
Nice,
it's so cool. It's so cool. They do Porch Fest too.
Yes. Oh yeah. I've never been. But I used to be involved with a radio station that was involved with it, so we used to talk about it all the time. Mm-hmm. Anyways, that's it.
We're
done. I think we're done. I'm
honored.
That was amazing. No, that was super amazing.
I'm always so nervous and weird about
that was super amazing. I love you, and I love you even more now. I love everything you're about, and I love your passion. And I love that you were able to work your way and to get into a place where this is where you're kind of meant to be, right?
I think so.
And that's awesome.
I can tie it all back to when I was a kid, you know, and I think that means something because it's experiential, and a place like this needs someone who has a fire for it. Yeah. Because it's really specific work. Yeah. It really is. And it's weird that I happened to, life brought me here, which makes me think that there's there's a reason. So.
No, there's always a reason, and I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll talk super soon.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much. And don't forget, be transcendent.
Be transcendent.